I'm Teisha Bader with Shalom TV's news update for Tuesday, February the 11th, 2014. Israel's Air Force launched strikes against 2 targets in Gaza late last night, following several recent rocket attacks on southern Israel. According to the IDF, the airstrikes targeted and successfully hit an underground rocket launcher in central Gaza and another terrorism target in Gaza's north. The Jerusalem Post reports Israel Aerospace Industries introduced a new drone today, simultaneously unveiling the aircraft at the IAI facility in Israel and at a weapons exhibition in Singapore. The unmanned aircraft is called the new Super Heron drone, which is a more advanced model than the previous Heron drone, which was in operation with the Israeli Air Force for over a decade. The Super Heron has a larger engine and can fly between 24 and 48 hours straight, and reach a ceiling of over 30,000 feet and a speed of 150 knots and above. The aircraft can carry surveillance equipment and radars with an improved ability to collect information. IAI CEO Yossi Weiss said the new drone was a leader in unmanned aircraft capabilities both in Israel and the world, and allows better abilities for missions of reconnaissance, tracking, identification, target acquisitions, maritime patrol, and more. Israel's new ambassador to the U.S. weighed in on the recent remarks made by U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry that caused criticism from some Israeli politicians. As you may recall, Kerry, in statements over a week ago in Munich, mentioned the growing boycott campaign against Israel, suggesting the campaign could worsen if peace talks with the Palestinians fail. Some politicians on Israel's right took the remarks as a warning to Israel and criticized Kerry.
I don't know what happened to him along the way.
Newly appointed Ambassador Ron Dermer said that Kerry's intention was not to press Israel in any way, but that he was, quote, only making descriptive statements regarding boycotts against Israel. Dermer told Time magazine on Monday that the Secretary of State was simply restating the existing pressure already on Israel. Dermer said, I don't think he was doing it in order to pressure Israel, adding Secretary Kerry is opposed to the boycotting of Israel, something he made clear again this week. President Obama has also been crystal clear about that. Dermer, who was born in the U.S., previously served as senior advisor to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He was appointed as ambassador, replacing Michael Oren on July 9th of this past year. U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Samantha Power addressed the American Jewish Committee's Board of Governors yesterday, where she expressed support for Israel's candidacy for a seat on the UN Security Council. Power said, we have pushed relentlessly for the full inclusion of Israel across the UN system. The ambassador also acknowledged the ongoing hostility and bias towards Israel at the world body and said that the U.S. was committed to eliminating that bias against the Jewish state. Israel's Foreign Minister Avigdor Lieberman will fly to Paris tomorrow to meet with his counterpart, Laurent Fabius, to discuss several issues of concern, including the Iranian nuclear threat. Lieberman's spokesman said that, quote, France plays an important role on the international stage to prevent the further nuclear program of Iran. While in Paris, Lieberman is also set to meet with Interior Minister Manuel Valls and Secretary General of the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, Angel Gurria, as well as with members of the France-Israel Interparliamentary Friendship Group and representatives of Jewish organizations. The Jerusalem Post reports that European Union Ambassador to Israel Lars Farborg Anderson stressed the success of peace talks between Israel and the Palestinians in regards to strengthening ties between Israel and the EU. Farborg Anderson made the comments during an interview for the Knesset's website this week, where he said that Israel is an important partner of the European Union and the Middle East peace process is one of the EU's foreign policy priorities. He further said that the EU has a strong interest to strengthen ties with Israel and bring them to the same level as European non-EU countries like Norway or Switzerland, noting that, quote, because of the vital importance that the international community attaches to negotiations with the Palestinians, this depends to a large degree on the success of that process. The EU envoy also noted that despite what was reported in the media, EU-Israel relations were very strong And he also said that the EU has a more developed relationship with Israel than with any other non-European country. Forberg Anderson gave the interview just ahead of President of the European Parliament Martin Schulz's planned speech at the Knesset in Jerusalem tomorrow. Schulz will address the Israeli parliament tomorrow afternoon. He will then meet with Israeli officials, including Israeli President Shimon Peres.
The advent of the telegraph.
Veteran National Director of the Anti-Defamation League, Abe Foxman, announced yesterday that he will step down from his position at the ADL next year. Foxman has served almost 5 decades at the organization, 27 as its national director. Himself a Holocaust survivor, Foxman said his years at the organization could not have been more rewarding. Foxman said, ADL offered me the perfect vehicle to live a life of purpose, both in standing up on behalf of the Jewish people to ensure that what happened during World War II would never happen again, and in fighting bigotry and all forms of oppression. ADL's succession committee will be conducting an extensive nationwide executive search for Foxman's successor. ADL National Chair Barry Curtis Lusher, who also serves as succession committee chair, called Foxman a unique leader in American Jewish life, who brings a combination of passion, experience, insight, and courage to the Jewish community. Curtis Lusher said his experience as a hidden child and the son of Holocaust survivors imprinted on his consciousness a deep pride in his Jewishness and the need to stand up for Jews wherever and whenever they were treated badly. Foxman will officially step down on July the 20th of 2015 and take on the role of ADL Director Emeritus, where he will continue his participation in advancing the League's mission by serving on both the ADL National Commission and the ADL National Executive Committee, in addition to serving in a part-time consultancy. Members of the Russian Jewish community joined Israeli Olympic delegates as well as embassy officials from Moscow and the U.S. on Sunday in Sochi, Russia, for a memorial service to remember and pay tribute to the Munich 11, the 11 Israeli athletes and coaches who were taken hostage and murdered by the Palestinian terrorist group Black September at the Olympics in Munich of 1972. The gathering on Sunday of approximately 200 people took place at a hotel just outside the Olympic gates. Seated in front at the memorial were the 5 Israeli Olympians competing in Sochi this year. They are Vladislav Bikanov, a short-track speed skater born in the Ukraine, fellow Ukrainian-born Alexei Bichenko, Belgian-born Virgil van de Put, who skis in the giant slalom, and figure skaters Evgeny Krasnopolsky, who was born in the Ukraine as well, and American-born Andrea Davidovich, who is from Vermont. The 2 skaters train in Hackensack, New Jersey. Davidovich said she felt connected to the Munich 11, saying, "I feel like we are representing them and what they couldn't achieve because of people who are against us." She said Jews have to stand behind each other and support each other. And staying with the Olympics for a moment, Israeli speed skater Bikanov, who we just mentioned, finished 4th yesterday, failing to qualify for the 1,500-meter semifinals in his sport by less than a second. However, Bikanov will compete in the 1,000-meter race on Thursday and the 500-meter next week. Bikanov, who is 24, was the flag bearer of the Israeli delegation at the opening ceremony in Sochi Friday night. And turning to our Shalom TV programming for tonight, Tuesday, February the 11th, at 8 o'clock, U.S. Ambassador to Israel Dan Shapiro addresses the Jewish Federations of North America's General Assembly held recently in Jerusalem on the topic of a changing Middle East. And then at 9 o'clock, Middle East Forum President Daniel Pipes and former Union for Reform Judaism President Eric Yaffe join Mark Golub on L'chaim to discuss and debate Western responses to Islamism. That's all coming up tonight here on Shalom TV and ShalomTV.com. And that's Shalom TV's news update for Tuesday, February the 11th, 2014. I'm Teisha Bader.